next time.
Hey everybody, another episode of PincheAls Garage, and today we're going to be working on a 2003 Passat Wagon. We're going to be doing the axles on it. If you are lower than pretty much any more than an inch on any like Volkswagen like Mark IV or B5 chassis, you're going to be replacing axles constantly. So good thing to do is always get your axles from AutoZone or O'Reilly's, since they have a lifetime warranty on them. You're going to be able to swap them out more often and without spending any more money. Downside is you're going to be swapping them out more often. But with this DIY, I'll show you guys how to do it fast and quick, and you're in and out within about an hour, replacing both axles. To start off with, you guys are going to need to break loose the axle bolt, which you're going to need a 14 mil Allen bit. What you want to do first is actually on the ground, when the car is on the ground, take off your cap, your center cap if you have one, pop it in, and break it loose. Once you break that loose, then you can break loose your wheels left and right. Get your car jacked up. Make sure you jack it up and use the pinch wheels with the jack stands, and then we'll show you what to do next. Quick correction, the Allen bolt that goes in here, socket, is actually 17 millimeters, so don't use the 14, use the 17 mil. Sorry guys. Okay, so the wheel now off. You're going to need a couple handy dandy extensions, I'd say about 1.5 feet, a 13 mil socket, an M10 triple square bit. If you guys never seen one of these before, you can now pick them up at AutoZone and O'Reilly's. They're about 12 bucks for a set of 4. You're going to need a flathead screwdriver. Ta-da! And what you're going to need to do is, once you have pretty much the wheel off, put a couple lug nuts into the hub right here. This will prevent the hub from spinning in a circle and not actually being able to break loose the bolts. With the flathead screwdriver, you're going to cram it over here inside the grooves inside the rotor. Lock that in place. Once that's locked in place, you'll be able to access, you guys can see that, all the way towards past the coilover. I'm going to cram this sucker in here all the way, and you're going to get to one of the bolts on the actual axle itself. Since I already broke loose the axle bolt on here, worry about that later. Get the axle hub on the back. There's 6 of those M10 triple squares. Break them loose however you guys want to do it. I use a longer breaker bar just to break them loose, and then I use my ratchet to take them off after that. Repeat the process 6 times, obviously, because there's 6 bolts. Once that's done, I'll show you what to do next. So on this next part, what you guys want to do, once you break loose all the bolts on the back and you have your axle bolt loose, you want to actually thread this out until it comes out. And then what you want to do is do about 3 or 4 threads back in. Grab like a hammer or a breaker bar and just smash it in like that. If your axle has been replaced multiple times or it hasn't been replaced, it might actually just pop out of its little socket from the back of the spindle. And if it does, you guys are in luck, because you just saved all that time. Once you do that, take out the bolt. It will shoot grease out of here. There's actually a grease chute that's inside here. The way that they pack the grease on these guys are a little different than like a Mark IV. They actually got packed in through the actual threaded port on here. So I would recommend get like a rag or something and cram it in here, because it'll shoot some grease out and it's going to make a mess. So at least you can catch the mess. So the bolts are already taken off on the back, and I'll show you guys what you guys end up doing in just a minute. You might actually have to turn the wheel around. That way we'll be able to drop the axle down at an angle, pop the axle out from the spindle, and actually just yank it out. Hopefully that's what the process is going to be right now. We'll see in just a minute. Alright, so quick poor man's tip. turn your steering wheel all the way to the, see that way, to the left, and then make sure the axle in the back, the axle cup is, the axle's in the axle cup, and then you'll be able to actually pry or pull the axle out right here without actually disconnecting the lower ball joints on this the passenger side. We were able to take it all the way out, if you see right here. So the axle's completely out, and holy crap, look at that. Completely torn axle boot. Good thing I'm getting new ones today. Let's see how the front of this. Look at that, completely intact. The cheap rubber on these guys, man, these are on these are remanufactured ones from AutoZone. I probably had these for maybe a year, and you'll just see the rubber is just falling apart already. So ready to make a mess. The nice thing though about it is you can replace them all the time for one-time fee. You'll spend, like I said, a good 30-40 minutes replacing your axles, but you're saving yourself what, $100-200 every time you break an OEM one. So that's what I'm looking at. Some people will disagree with me. I'm okay with that. That's why we're all different and we do things differently. But this is how we're going to be doing pretty much the axles with new ones or remans. Alright? And this is the passenger side. So now on the driver's side axle, it's actually looking very, very promising that it's going to be the exact same procedure like the passenger side. So, like I showed you guys before, break loose the actual axle bolt. Once that's done, put a couple bolts into the hub, cram right here a flathead screwdriver. This will allow you to lock the pretty much the axle from spinning, and then go all the way towards the back where the 6 bolts are for the axle. I don't think you guys can see that, but there'll be 6 bolts back there. Unbolt all 6, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so on this next part of the procedure, once you've taken the axle bolt off and taken the 6 bolts off the axle, off the transmission, we don't need this in here anymore. So what you want to do, we're going to try to turn the wheel all the way to the right and see if we can pop the axle out from the spindle. Alright, see if we can pop it out. Make sure though that the axle is stuck in the hub inside the transmission side, because we're trying to pull it out of the spindle. I think it's good. Okay, so we figured out how to take it out. Sorry we couldn't show you, but what you're going to do is actually, instead of having the axle in the hub, take it out and move it up. It'll give you about a 1/4 inch more space, and then the axle should just pop right out and you're good to go. But you'll see here, axle's removed. 6 bolts on that hub right there, I mean on the axle cup. Now we're going to see if it's actually the same way, by reversing the process. If it is, then we'll film that one time and it should be fine, because we don't need to film both sides, because it's going to be exactly the same for us. Stay tuned. Alright, we're back, and we got the new axles from AutoZone. They actually stopped making remanufactured axles. They actually make brand new axles for our car. So they let me trade in my old ones for brand new axles and pay the difference of $20 for both of them. So that's a big plus. We're gonna get ready now to install these. So I'm just taking off the zip tie that's on here. So like we did before, you're gonna cram the axle in. And then we're gonna try to get the axle to sit as far I guess, away as we can. So you got to insert it into the cup and see if you can bend this axle in, and then twist the cup over. You want to see if you can get that in there. Well, it might be helpful if you guys have two people. Get this up here. Got it?
Just needs a little bit more backwards. But
that's it. No?
I got the turn, but
Let me see. What's your hand? This is where it's hard. Oh. Since the other ones were blown, they fit further away from the actual cup, so these are going to be a little bit harder. We might have to remove a ball joint. We don't know yet, but we're going to try a different method right now at the moment. So we got the axle in without taking off the ball joint here. If you guys want to make this less painful and less annoying, take the ball joints off here. If you don't have the tools for it, then I don't recommend it. What you're going to need to do, the axle down here below, the axle cup, you guys can see my hand right here. Move the axle behind the axle cup back here, and it'll give you just enough space to put the axle in here. You're going to have to turn the wheel all the way to the left as far as you can, quite possibly even more by holding it with the friend. And it'll give you just the right amount of clearance to actually cram the axle in. But what's going to happen, it's going to get stuck over here in this cup. So you're going to have to push down and kind of wiggle it out, back out, and then push it all the way in, and then you'll be able to bolt it back into place like we just did. This is pretty much, I'm not going to say the right way to do it 100%, but it's the best way of doing it without taking off these two control arms down below, so you can swing the whole system forward. Believe me or not, but once you guys have these bolted into place, they are a pain to remove without having the proper tools to pry off these ball joints off. And if you do, sometimes you might end up ripping the ball joints, the rubber, and you actually will be in a worse situation. So it's definitely up to you guys on how you guys want to do this. I'm just showing you guys how to do the passenger side. Now we're going to actually do the driver side right now. Agree. Okay. So for the driver's side, it literally took me 1 minute to actually get the axle in. It's same process, except you want to put the axle right above it, because there's no heat shield on this side, because there's no exhaust on this side of the car. So you can actually put it up top, and it lets you put the axle further back, so it gives you the space right here to actually clear it when you turn the wheel to the right. It gives you just an amount of space to actually clear it and push it through, and it fit just perfectly right into the car. The new bolt they give us, put it in by hand, and the next thing to do is to put in all the 6 bolts, and I'll give you guys the torque specs for everything in just a moment. So, doing my research for the axle bolt and the axle nuts. Pretty much the axle bolts here. You got to torque them down to 140 pounds with a 90-degree turn. Some people say 140-degree turn. I've been doing them with 90 degrees and my car's been fine, so I'm going to stick with that. The 6 bolts against the back are 51 foot-pounds, and you got to do it in a star pattern or opposites, just like how you do your wheels. And that's it. You can do the same thing on both sides and you're good to go. Just double check always your torque specs before you do it. You don't want to drive with less than what you're supposed to. The reason behind this is because if you don't torque them right down properly, something can fall off or break, or even more serious, put you guys in an accident. I don't want that to happen to you guys, so make sure you guys do it right. Take your time, okay? And that goes for today's episode at PincheAls Garage. Thanks for watching, and subscribe. Right here, I'll put a little subscribe button somewhere, or I'll do something. We'll check it out. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this episode of PincheAls Garage. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the like button down below. We just made this brand new lanyard for you guys, so check it out on my online store. It's on the upper right hand corner of the channel. And if you have any other feedback or actually questions, just hit me up. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.
Another kind of guy that can hit a woman, but I guess in your case you're asking for it. You know we going down.